Hey, Canucks fans. Well, I guess they can't win them all as much as we want them to. Welcome to Game Over Vancouver. I pressed the wrong button, so you saw a split second of my guest, the guest that I'm bringing on, but it's worth it. And I'll tell you why in a couple of minutes. Welcome to Game Over Vancouver. The Vancouver Canucks lose for the first time in 12 meetings to the San Jose Sharks, dating back, I guess that's at least 3 or 4 years. They lose 4-3 in the Shark Tank in San Jose. Canucks made a valiant effort at a comeback, but it was too little too late. A span of a minute and 22 seconds did the men at the start of the third period. We're going to get into it with my guests. But before we get going, I want to welcome you to Game Over Vancouver on the SDPN network. That's the Steve Dangle Podcast Network. And right away, before we get going, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel so you get the videos every single day. Make sure you hit the bell button, the notification button, and like the video. You don't have to like the fact necessarily that the Canucks lost, but like the fact that I'm wearing my sushi shirt. This is how I roll, because it was supposed to be the Canucks, the orca eating up the Sharks, and I thought this would be perfect. And you guys know my nickname in high school was Sushi Master. You probably didn't know that, but I'm just telling you right now that my nickname in high school was Sushi Master. But enough about me. Let's talk about these Vancouver Canucks. As we get going, yes, subscribe to SDPN. We cover all 7 Canadian teams every single post-game. Every single game, we do a post-game show for them, and like the video. And I know that you're going to like my guest. Now, this young, good-looking gentleman, we were just joking around before he came on the stream. We're not going to get down. Yes, the Canucks lost, and we want the Canucks to win, but it's a Saturday night. We're in a good mood, and no joke, I've tried to get this guy on 3 times prior, and they say 3rd time's a charm. We're going to go 4 times the charm, but it's going to be well worth it. You see him all over the place. He's got his own podcast. He writes for at least 2 sites, but I'm going to let him tell you all about that. So please welcome my guest, Mr. Trevor Beggs. Trevor, welcome. Yeah, that's all that matters. And all the people in the chat. By the way, if you're in the chat, welcome. We know this is going to grow as we go. Please interact with each other, interact with us. But admittedly, Trevor and I will get to the bulk of your questions at the end of the show, at the 3rd segment, just so we can get through what we need to get through. And that's the 1st segment. We're going to talk about the game. The 2nd segment, we got a couple hot takes that we want to give to you. And then we'll get to you guys in the 3rd segment. Trevor, before we get going, please, and there's no rush here, tell everyone what you do in terms of the Canucks and professionally if you want, and where people can find all of your good work.
Yeah, so I've been writing about the Canucks for 10 years now. It's flown by. I'm starting to get old here. But right now, writing for Offside or over at Daily Hive Vancouver. And ironically, I kind of started my writing career over at Van City Buzz back in the day as an unpaid freelancer.
Wow.
Shout out to Rob Williams.
Yes.
Gave me the opportunity. He's got me in the booth, so I covered probably about 10 games in the booth last season for Daily Hive there. So
Awesome.
that's what I'm doing on the writing side, and then on the podcast side, I've been doing Locked On Canucks with my best buddy Kyle Bowen.
Yes.
Of this year, and finally, I am the managing editor for Nucks Misconduct. Obviously, the whole SB Nation NHL went through some turmoil there, but kind of helping the guys there getting up and running. But, just trying to stay in this space as much as I can, because I love this team, and Clay, for once they're actually doing something. And they might not have won tonight, but if they won, they would have been tied for 1st in the NHL. So they're still in a pretty dang good spot.
Yes, they would have been tied for 1st in the NHL. And I just realized I had the desktop audio low because I don't want the intro to be too loud. So Trevor, can you just really quickly just do your part about the 3 sites that you're on one more time, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, no worries at all.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I'm a Canucks writer over at Daily Hive Vancouver, or the Offside section of Daily Hive. And ironically, I started over at Daily Hive as an unpaid freelancer in 2013, over back in the Van City Buzz days. So kind of came back full circle there. And shout out to Rob Williams. He kind of got me as the backup goalie for Daily Hive. So I was in the booth for about 10 games last season. Didn't make too much of a fool of myself, so I got invited back for a few more this year. So it's been going well over there. And then on the podcast side, I've been doing Locked On Canucks with my best bud, Kyle Bowen, since March of this year. And got headhunted for that after SB Nation NHL kind of fell apart
Yes.
We're doing some podcast work over at Nucks Misconduct, but site is now up and running at nucksmisconduct.ca. So
Awesome.
trying to stay involved there with a good group of guys as well.
Awesome. And thanks for your patience and your understanding. And thanks everyone in the chat for letting me know. But I promise, I guarantee, no, I can't guarantee no more technical glitches for the rest of the show because after all, it is me. I'm a good talker, but not the best when it comes to the computer. You and Kyle, just before we get into tonight's game, I love what you guys are doing with Locked On Canucks. I try and catch it when I can, when I'm at work or after work. Just what's the kind of vibe you're going for? It looks like to me it's two good buds, just not taking themselves too seriously and having fun talking about a team that we just love covering.
Yeah, you can't take yourself too seriously, and I think we do try to make fun of ourselves when we can, and we definitely get some heat in the comments as well sometimes with people jumping on board with making fun of ourselves. So the skin's got to be thick in this industry,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's funny, and I think when I got headhunted for Locked On Canucks back in February because no one was doing the show, and I said I'm only going to do this with Kyle, and part of the
Wow.
reason is I got two young kids and I don't got the time to do all the production. Like you said, Clay, you and I could talk about hockey, but maybe production, maybe not our number one strong suit, but
I've proven it tonight
Kyle
in
is a
the first four.
maestro on that
Yes.
side of things. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
Kyle's a maestro on that side of things. And yeah, I think our vibe is definitely, two best buds talking about hockey, but I do think Kyle is more of that exacerbated fan. Whereas I think the Canucks being bad over the last 10 years has given me a bit more of an analytical side to the game, like, not getting worked up about losses too much. I definitely get excited about wins, but when they lose, it's okay, individually, like who's playing good, who's not playing good, what's
Yeah.
happening on the other side of the equation. So I definitely probably bring a bit more of the level-headed approach. And then, Kyle is just that, crazy exacerbated fan. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And that's I love what you said there, Trevor, because whether it's for me here on Game Over Vancouver, as you know, Parker, Sam, and Kaya, we all split the duties. Sometimes we're on together, sometimes we bring on guests, and sometimes we're solo. But even when it's Canucks After Dark with Parker and me on Monday nights, and he knows his stuff. He's very articulate, but he's pretty like serious guy, and I don't think I'm saying anything surprising here. So I play the goofy guy to a straight guy, and it actually works really well because you can't have two guys exactly the same. You just kind of bounce
Yeah.
off each other, and I think that's what we're gonna do tonight. So let's start with this before we get into the goals. What was your overall impression of tonight, and were you honestly expecting this kind of game because the Canucks have played they're among the most games in the entire NHL, 3 and 4 all on the road, travel last night. What were you expecting, and was this game what you expected basically?
I'm not gonna lie, Clay. I expected to win tonight. I know it's the seventh game in 11 nights, but you're facing the worst team in the NHL, a
Yeah.
team that the Canucks have handled pretty easily twice this month. Obviously with a 10-1 score thrown in there. Yeah, I definitely expected to win tonight. And even when the game was 4-2 in the final minutes, I expected the Canucks to find a way to tie it up. And maybe that's just my jaded optimism in this team right now. I know I said I'm the serious analytical guy, but the fan part of me got the fan side of me got the better part of me
Yeah.
in the third period there. I'm like 4-2, no problem. We're gonna tie this up. It's the San Jose Sharks. Of course, Betcher scores 3-ish minutes left. I'm like, yeah, no problem. We got this in the bag, tying
Yeah.
it up, winning in overtime. So
Yeah.
yeah, the game didn't quite play out as I thought, but I will say I was pleasantly surprised with the pushback after Elias Pettersson was cross-checked by Matt Benning there, because Kyle and I kind of talked about it last week. This Canuck team, they might be winning games. They might be one of the top teams in the league in hits, but they're kind of lacking bite and they're lacking a bit of that intensity in terms of standing up for each other. So that part pleasantly surprised me. Although the game overall, I was underwhelmed a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Trevor, wholeheartedly on the fact that I thought the Canucks were going to win too, because with their hot start this year, they almost are giving me almost those 2011 vibes where no matter where they were in a game, you expected them to win. Not you hope they'd win or you'd pray that they win. You actually expected them to win. So despite the horrible start of the third period, which we'll get into in a few minutes, I fully expected them to come back too. And I thought we would be talking about like an overtime or a shootout win and we'd be laughing and high fiving through the screen, but we can still do that. But we're talking about a 4-3 loss against a team that, yes, they've dominated for the past, as we talked about, 11 contests. So the Canucks, yeah, it's unfortunate, but they get to come home now. And we'll talk about what's going to happen first after this in a second. So as usually goes, someone scores their first career goal against the Canucks. And had you ever heard of Emberson before tonight?
Yeah, I had heard about him,
Oh,
but I,
okay.
I can't say I know a lot about him. But you're right. It is kind of typical Canucks fashion that a guy would score his first NHL game. Good for Ty Emberson.
Yeah.
He had to score against somebody, right?
Yeah.
Or not. But I will say, this guy, scores his first NHL goal. He doesn't really look like a rookie, man.
Yeah.
He looks as old as I do. Not to say I look like a young guy or anything, but
Oh, well, compared to me,
actually, I'd say
you
the opposite.
compared to me, you look very young. So this is a slap shot from the point, and actually, it's a really, really. I think this was against the Joshua Bluger Garland line, if I'm not mistaken, controlling a bit of the play, and yeah, it was from the right point, but it goes over to Smith's right shoulder. So it was actually, got to give him credit. It was an excellent shot. Picks the corner from the blue line.
Yeah, yeah. And it was, one of those goals you can't really fault Casey DeSmith on,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it was kind of fired through a screen. And it's funny because I remember, Kyle Burrows scored one of his only goals for the Canucks like that last season. And
yeah.
lo and behold, I know he was on the ice for a couple Sharks goals tonight, even if he wasn't really factoring into the score sheet too much.
Yeah, no, it's nice that Burrows had a couple opportunities to level Canucks players. I think he held
Yeah.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
Then the 5 minutes
What
later,
a
the
nice
Canucks.
guy. He's still cheering for the Canucks.
Yeah,
He's still
exactly.
cheering for the Canucks.
I think he wants to come back here eventually. He knows how weak we are on the right side. So
Yeah.
then Canucks go on the power play, and they hold possession for the entire minute and 20 before they actually score. And man, actually with Kuzmenko out, and we're going to talk about that later, and Hronek in on that first unit, they certainly move the puck well. It just adds another weapon. But yes, they go around. They keep the puck in a couple times, and then it was Hughes to Miller and a cross seam pass to Hronek, who one times it as Pettersson's getting cross checked into the net. What'd you see on that power play? And isn't it a thing of beauty the way they move the puck when they are on, at least?
Yeah, I mean that power play has not missed a beat with Kuzmenko out of the lineup, and yeah, we'll save most of that talk for later. But in the NHL nowadays, it's 32 teams. I think I can't think of a single team in the NHL that consistently runs a power play with two defensemen and three forwards. You just don't see it nowadays
Yep.
because your best chance at maximizing offense, your best chance at scoring is loading up the power play with four forwards and one defenseman. And
Yeah.
it's fascinating to see. I know early days right now with Kuzmenko out of the lineup, but fascinating to see that, with Hronek on this top unit, again, not missing a beat. And it kind of happened in that Islanders game too, right? Kuzmenko takes the shot in the face, kind of takes the air out of the building. All of a sudden, Hronek goes on the power play and boom, scores on 100. And I know it was clocked 107. I think they dialed it back to 103, but
Only 103. Yeah, only
only
103.
103. Yeah, exactly. Clay, you and I, if we combine for our hardest shot, we might get to 70 there. But
And you'd be 65 of it. Yeah. So that's awesome. So it's 1-1. We're like, okay, at least we're tied going into the first intermission on the road on a back-to-back. So we're good. We're good. Then San Jose takes their second lead of the night. It's a slap shot, and this came after. It was a little bit frustrating. The Canucks had a chance to clear it. They iced it instead, and then they had a mismatch of players. I believe the forwards out there, it was like Mikheyev, Garland, and Oman, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously they're not used to playing with each other. They're not used to positioning with each other, more or less. And it kind of showed as Hertl went behind the net and sent it to Zetterlund, and he was just kind of there by himself. No one took care of him in the slot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting too. I think you're right about Connor Garland being on the ice for that one,
Yeah.
and Connor Garland had been on the ice for I think 3 or 4 even strength goals against all season, and now he's on the ice for 2 tonight
Oh,
against the San Jose Sharks. So
yeah.
he'd been quietly I think one of the best Canuck players defensively, but
Yeah.
wasn't his best night in that department.
Yeah.
Fabian Zetterlund though, he's a guy who's kind of built like a bigger Niels Hoglander. I think he's about 5'11", 200 pounds, and
Oh, gee.
yeah, he's a chunky dude, in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing wrong with chunky
But
dudes. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, I was kind of fascinated following him in New Jersey, and I know being in
Yeah.
San Jose, not a great situation, but
Yeah.
he's a hard guy to move in front of the net, and I think you saw it on that goal.
Yep. No, well said. And then the Canucks get another power. Thank goodness they're getting power plays. And again, some good puck movement by the awesome five. And then this one, it's a Hronek shot that bounces off the goalie, Kakinen, off of Miller's shin, and probably an easy, and Besser, to his credit, not just his goals, and he gets 2 tonight, but he is creating so many chances either for himself or with his line mates. He could easily have 20 goals on the season as opposed to 15 with his second one. But yeah, really nice to see that. And that was one of those beautiful goals that happened in the last 30 seconds of a period. It's such Such a difference maker because instead of going down 2-1, now it's 2-2 and it's anyone's game despite what happened. But yeah, what'd you see on that goal? And yeah, you must be happy for Besser, I presume.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was kind of checking the numbers, you know, in the third period there. And I know we'll get to that goal in a bit, but
Yeah,
Besser is almost equal to his goal total from last season, which is crazy to think about. Again, the bounces seem to be going his way, but I also think it's a matter of him putting himself in the right spots, right? Like
right.
he's finding the seam in the middle of the ice where the defender's not checking him. He's finding that hole in the middle of the ice, and that
Yeah,
hole is usually there, right? Defenders are usually kind of picking their corners, especially on the PK. They're in the box or they're in the diamond. There is a gap in the middle of the ice,
yeah,
and I credit Besser for being able to find that.
yeah.
Just on natural stat trick right now, looking at individual scoring chances created, and Besser created 9 scoring chances tonight. Uh,
Wow.
the next closest Canuck was Hronek, who created 5. So Besser, credit to
Yeah,
him. He's creating his own luck, and he had
wow.
7 shots tonight as well. So
Good, good.
it's not just all luck for Besser. He's finding a way to make things happen for himself.
Good. Maybe one day you can teach me how to read natural stat trick. It's a bunch of colors and stuff. I do know that the Canucks had a higher expected goals, expected goals, which tells that they actually dominated, at least in parts, this game. Okay, so it's 2-2. They come out for the third. You and I actually, we'll take everyone a peek behind the curtain. We meet during the second intermission. We check out our cameras. We check out our mics. Obviously, I didn't check out my audio levels, but we were fine. And then we're all excited to collab for the first time. And we barely get back to our TVs and we see San Jose pop 2. What did you see on the first goal? You know that one where Granlund kind of went behind his net and he skated right down the middle of Besser, Miller, Hronek, and Hughes. What did you see there, Trevor?
Honestly, I thought I was having a fever dream for a second. Kind of blacked out a little bit, but yeah, it was one of those uncharacteristically slow plays that the Canucks were still kind of having an
Yeah,
intermission snooze there on that goal.
yeah,
And Mikael Granlund, obviously he's a talented player. Like he's had his
yeah,
moments in this league, but
yeah.
he's been sent to San Jose for a reason, or so where bad contracts go to die. So and then obviously the announcer say after the goal is his first goal in 31 or 32 games. Like what a goal to score
Yeah,
after not scoring for 31 or 32 games. I mean,
yeah.
my goodness, it's again, I was kind of flabbergasted on that goal, to be honest with you.
Me too. And we get so excited that Besser scores at 21 seconds left in the
Yeah.
second period, and we give up a goal 22 seconds into the third period. But not to be outdone, then Tyler Myers takes a penalty. He had a rough game tonight. And I'm not getting a pile on Tyler Myers. He's had some decent games. We know Rick Tocchet really likes him. Like it's obvious. Rick Tocchet really likes him. So we can't just say Tyler Myers stinks because it's not true. He doesn't stink, but he had a rough game tonight. And
He
then
stinks sometimes.
and then
But
he's not.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. No problem. Then Hoffman, I forgot this guy was still around, scores the 6th of the season. And this one was interesting because it was Hronek, Miller, and Cole, as it was a 4-on-3 because of the coincidental minors at the end of the period. And then I found that on that play, Hronek, usually obviously with a 3-man, it's a triangle, but usually it's 1 man up top and 2 men at the bottom. But both Miller and Hronek kind of got sucked up, and that left a 2-on-1 down below against Cole. And then the shot goes from, I think it's from Granlund. And then Cole, he didn't put in his own net. He's trying to sweep it away at the same time
Mhm.
that Hoffman is already slicing through the puck, and then no chance for the Smith there. So, anything you think they could have done better? Or is that just 4-on-3, some skilled players, no matter who you're playing against?
Yeah, I mean Cole could have cleared the puck away, I guess. No, I mean it's a 4-on-3. It's a tough one, right? At first I thought Cole put it in his own net, but
Yeah,
obviously you see the play slowed down a bit, and
yeah.
wasn't quite the case. But yeah, Hoffman, another place where bad contracts go. Another example of San Jose being a place where bad contracts go to
Yeah,
die. So,
yeah.
good for him earning that $4.5 million paycheck with a goal for the worst team in the NHL there.
Is that what's going to happen when Rob thinks that you are overrated, and when SDPN thinks I'm overrated? They're just going to ship both of us down to San Jose and create content for them.
I mean, no, I think there's worse places to be in the world, Clay. So I wouldn't be opposed to that. You and me
Okay,
down in San Jose, we'd have some fun.
we would, and we're not going to name those other cities because we don't want to be banned by them. So then it's 4-2, but we have basically the entire third period ahead of us, and this is where you and I both think that the Canucks have a chance, and they had their chances. They carried play in the third, and then it wasn't until Brock Besser, yeah, that's good. And I know you want to talk a bit more about Brock and then about his goal total, but yeah, there was it was a 6-on-5. Obviously, it wasn't a power, no, it was 6-on-5, so just 1 man up, and there was plenty of time. He actually scored with with more than 3 minutes left in the game. So how are you feeling? Firstly, when you saw Besser put that wrist shot in?
I thought the Canucks were winning 100%. I was like, more than 3 minutes left, playing the worst team in the NHL.
Yeah.
These guys are going to find a way to pop in that fourth goal,
Yeah.
send this game to overtime. I think, Kyle and I have been starting to do something on Locked On Canucks called the pregame prophecy. And I was being a little silly and outlandish with it. But actually, I think I'm going to call that for the Kraken game. But I did call a win for the Canucks. And I did call at some point on this road trip or this weekend slate an Elias Pettersson overtime goal to kind of, make us forget about the bad play in his game.
Right.
So I thought it was all going to come to fruition, Clay, and it
Yeah.
just wasn't quite the case, unfortunately.
Quick aside, are you worried about PD's game right now?
No, long term, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I think it's easy to get caught up in the minutia of the fact that that line isn't playing their best hockey, and now Kuzmenko's not there. A little spoiler for segment 2. Not a huge fan of Lafferty on that line. In general, I find Lafferty and Mikheyev to be a bit redundant together. But in general, I'm not really worried about PD's game. He's going to figure it out. Even guys like Connor McDavid, as we're seeing this season, go through bad stretches. So not worried about PD.
And this is the one part about natural stat trick that I do know how to read: the Corsi for, the Corsi against. He did, his Corsi was 73% all situations, so that's good. He was on the ice for 16 shots for and only 6 against, so that is a good. And he's drawing penalties. He's getting cross-checked into the boards.
Yeah,
that was a little scary, but
and hitting guys too, right? Like he's throwing the body around this season, to pulled groin or whatever he's dealing with. He might not be 100%, but he's still chucking the body, which is awesome to see.
Right. So it's interesting you mentioned Lafferty because he plays the entire final 2.5 minutes with the big 5: Hronek, Hughes, Besser, Miller, and PD. Yeah, I do like Lafferty's speed for sure. I think he's the fastest A to B skater on this team. You really notice it, especially when you first join the team. But yeah, I would love a Hoglander, a Mikheyev, even a Garland, someone out there with better hands maybe for that last bit. What do you think? Like they did a good job moving around. A couple of scary moments. Miller, he always scares me when he sometimes gets a little too fancy. And then of course San Jose missed a couple of anti-net opportunities. But is that just simply a matter of you're not going to score every time, no matter how talented you are? Because San Jose, they're good too. They block shots. They're fearless. They get in the lane. The goalie actually was pretty good tonight, despite his horrible stats coming in this game. What do you think of that? Anything they could have done better there? Or is that just a matter of 11 guys on the ice just doing their best to do their jobs? 12 guys. Yeah.
I mean, what stood out to me during that segment or that sequence was that Hronek just loves to rip it, And I know time was running out, but Hronek gets the puck and it's just like, bong, gets the puck back, bomb. This guy's looking for that goal, I don't know if he's trying to catch up to Hughes or he wants a little Norris love or what it is, but it seemed like Philip Hronek really wanted to be the guy who was going to get the winner there. But, in general, it's again interesting to see, the two defensemen up there, Hronek and Hughes, keep doing their thing, keep getting pucks on net. I know they had their kind of gaff on the Granlund goal, but in general, man, oh man, I just feel so blessed to watch a pairing like this play for the Vancouver Canucks right now. And I know it's a post-game show, but for me personally, I'm trying not to get caught up in the minutia too much of a November loss when I see, Hronek and Hughes doing what they're doing right now.
And that's a perfect way to wrap up this first segment is we don't make excuses. San Jose, for the most part, was full value for the win in terms of they stayed in there with the Canucks. But yes, 7 games in 11, and a lot of those on the road, and 3 and 4 on the road. Usually back-to-backs you get at home, not away. So this was a tricky part. So the Canucks, I'm not sure if it gets easier. They have Anaheim on Tuesday. They have Vegas on Thursday. So and then I think doesn't it thin out a little bit after that? I thought it gets a little.
Yeah, well, I know they play Calgary on the Saturday,
right?
And so again, Kyle and I talked about that kind of heading into the weekend. It's 5 straight divisional games, right? Seattle, San Jose, Anaheim, Vegas, and Calgary. And Ian Cole's kind of talked time and time again about good teams don't lose multiple games. Good teams especially don't lose multiple games within their own division.
Right.
And I would say, this Sharks team that's going nowhere, this was probably the most losable game of the road trip, if losable is a word. If losing to the Sharks can be an excuse. You go into next week, and I think, you don't want to lose to Calgary. You've already lost to Calgary once recently. Vegas, that's going to be a tough test. You'd love to see the Canucks come up on top on that one.
Yeah.
And, an Anaheim Ducks team, the Canucks should be favored there as well. So tough schedule now. And then, after that is Tuesday, December 7th against New Jersey. I've been in the booth for Daily Hive for a couple of games this season, but I have not been as a good old-fashioned beer-drinking fan. So I'm going to that one as a fan.
Oh, sweet.
So I'm excited for that one.
I'll be there too. We'll have to make sure that we get to high five each other and give each
There
other.
we go. There we go.
Awesome. So you
Collaboration of the century in the in the lower bowl.
Yes, exactly. So Trevor, you teased our two segments now that are two topics that we're going to touch on for segment two, Kuzmenko and our Canucks D pairing, our wonderful pairing. Let's talk about Kuzmenko real quick. So he gets scratched for last night's game because Rick Tocchet wants him to play tougher. And I don't know. I'm not sure how tough I'd play after taking a JT Miller slap shot to the face, but he's got to work through that. And we already know what he's capable of. And then I guess because of the short turnaround or they don't want to change the lineup from a 5-1 victory last night in Seattle, they go with the same lineup. So that's two straight scratches for Kuzmenko. Is there a story here, or is this just a coach showing a relatively not young player, but inexperienced in terms of NHL time, just kind of teaching him some tough love? What's your read on this one, Trevor?
Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't get back into the lineup tonight. I mean,
Yeah.
I know the Canucks played well against Seattle, especially in that third period. My goodness, I don't know if I've seen a better third period from this team in quite some time, which is saying something, considering how good they've been this season.
Yep.
But man, oh man, it's like Tocchet's a smart guy. This team is, again, like you mentioned, Clay, 7 games in 11 nights, second night of back-to-backs. As good as this team played, it's like Di Giuseppe or Amon or maybe even like a Lafferty. I know they love Lafferty right now, so maybe not him, but you think that there would have been a way to get Kuzmenko, and Kuzmenko's been a shark killer. I mean, not that it's the Canucks won 12 straight games against the Sharks. So obviously, Kuzmenko played a role in a few of those wins, but yeah, I was a little bit surprised that he didn't get back into the lineup tonight, and I think I guess you're right, Clay. It's just the fact that the team played really well in Seattle. Stick with the same lineup, but I mean, if he's sending a message, you figure one game would do the trick. The two games did kind of surprise me.
Yeah, and especially, I kind of went against my own argument there. If you're going back to back on the road, you think he has fresh legs, and so then you bring someone out. Maybe my theory is, I think they would have brought out Nils Amon, but he just signed a 2-year contract and he responded with 2 assists last time.
He was good. He was good in Seattle.
Yeah, but I do think he's the least storylines if you bring Amon out, because he was the one who just got called up. You could, I guess, you're not gonna sit Lafferty, you're not gonna sit Joshua. So maybe to me, Beauvillier is the outside chance as the other guy. But then it's another story of another $4 million player being sat. So for me, if I had to choose, it would probably be Nils Amon. I don't know, you'd agree with that, or if you have someone else in mind.
For me, it would be Phil Di Giuseppe.
Oh yeah,
and I feel weird saying that because going into the season, I kept saying, "No, Phil Di Giuseppe's my guy." It's a 30-year-old guy. I'm a 30-year-old guy, and this guy's kind of worked his way up. He's grinded. Now he's in the NHL full time, but it just kind of feels like I know he forechecks hard, and you've seen that in every game so far this season.
Yeah.
I think his work ethic is what's kept him here, but he's just been kind of quiet the last few games. I think he's a guy you could sit for an Andrei Kuzmenko.
Yeah, I agree.
Problem with sending Phil Di Giuseppe for a night.
So newsflash, we just learned Trevor Beggs' age is 30. So if we're looking for equivalents, are there any 49-year-old players in the NHL right
now? Ooh, that's a great question.
I think Jagger's my age, but he's not in the NHL.
Oh no, you're younger than Jagger. Yeah, Jagger's in his 50s, or Jagger's in his 50s. Yeah. Okay.
That's fair. That's fair. And the other story you want to talk about, and I know you wrote about this recently on Offside for Daily Hive, is well, actually, I'll let you introduce it because I think it's a great topic and I think you should introduce it.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Hronek and Hughes. It's been on my mind recently. Like, are these guys that are developing the best pairing in Vancouver Canucks history? And I know it's early. What we're just a bit of a quarter of the way through the season, but in my mind, it's like, have there been better defense pairings in Canucks history? And to me, it's almost like the whole argument for when Quinn Hughes came in the league. Kyle and I were saying back at our old network in Canucks Wisconsin, it's like, a couple of games and it's like Quinn Hughes is the best defenseman in Canucks history. Mm-hmm. And people didn't like it because he played 5 NHL games, but it's like, this guy's different. He's different. And it's the same thing with this Hronek and Hughes pairing. They are different. We have not seen a pairing like this in Canucks history. So my angle after the game in Seattle on Friday night for Daily Hive was, Hronek and Hughes, this is the first time in Canucks history where the Canucks have had 2 defensemen with point streaks of 10 plus games in the same season. Mm-hmm. And in fact, they're only the 4th and 5th defenseman to do it in Canucks history. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe the other defensemen were Doug Hallward, Yuri Bubla, and Dennis Kearns.
Wow.
And Bubla and Hallward did it in the early 80s. So the Canucks haven't even had a defenseman have a 10-game point streak since the early 80s. And now
Yes.
we've seen two defensemen do it within the span of 32 days here, Clay. So
Yep. Yep.
it's unreal stuff. And obviously Hughes had another point tonight. He's up to an 11-game point streak.
Yep.
He's now, him and Hronek have both had 11-game point streaks this season, which is wild.
Yep.
And I guess the sneaky thing to watch out for too is the Canucks record is 15 games. So maybe there's a chance that Hughes can get there, and who's really doubting him at this point. But yeah, I don't know, Clay. Is there anyone in your mind? Has there been a better defense pairing in Canucks history?
I love that angle. And before we get into a couple candidates for best pairing, I obviously a lot of what we see is what they do on the offensive side, the way they complement each other, the way they hold the line, the way they do that quick swap, so they're on their strong sides or weak sides, whatever you call it, their one-timer sides. We see all the brilliant offensive, and then someone might say, well, I don't know, they don't look great on defense all the time, but no, Hughes, it took forever for him to give up a even strength goal, and because they're pushing so much on offense, it helps their defense there because it seems like they're rarely in their own end. And when they are in their own end, it's when they're getting beat by some 30-year-old, 35-year-old Finnish guy going, going coast to coast. So what is their defensive profile? Like I haven't got a chance to get into, I don't know if you did, you were able to get into that for your story. Is on the defense side, are they fine too? Or are we being mesmerized by their offense?
Yeah, and defensively, they've still been pretty strong. They had a
Yeah.
lull, I think, over the first kind of dozen games of the season. Like they were just putting up unreal numbers. Like I'm not even sure if they were scored on within the first kind of 12 games of the season. Like
Yeah.
it was something else. But yeah, overall, they're still ripping up on that
Awesome.
side. So yeah,
Yep.
defensively, you look at minutes played right now.
Yep.
And they're the 11th highest ice time in the league in terms of a pairing together. But yeah, the defensive numbers have dipped a bit,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, still overall, they're definitely tilting the ice when they're out there.
Awesome.
They outscore the opposition 21-9 when they've been on the ice at even strength. So
Okay.
pretty unreal stuff from that pairing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just look at how dynamic both of them are. And I was a Hronek skeptic coming into this season, right? I
Yeah.
mean, loved what he did last season for Detroit, but the body work before that was a bit troubling.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it was a steep price, and the Canucks needed him to hit. And man, oh man,
Oh,
not only has he hit, but he's looking like one of the best defensemen in the NHL
yeah.
on his own. So
Yes.
yeah, it's really boding well for the Canucks' future right now. And I honestly, I'm gonna say right now, I think they might be the best defensive pairing in Canucks history.
Well, you rarely get to trade for a bona fide number one, number two, whatever you want to call them, right shot defenseman. You got to draft and develop those guys. And maybe, I was on the bus ride back from Seattle. I was talking to all the fans there, and just maybe in 3 or 4 years, Trevor, we're looking at a Hughes-Hronek, Tom Villander, Hunter Bustevich, DPD, like some really
Let's
young,
go.
some young nucleus. Okay, chat. Before we get to the Q&A, before we get off this topic, you let us know in the chat, where do Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek stand up as a pairing compared to other D pairings in the past? And Trevor and I are each going to offer up one pairing. We're not saying they're better than Hughes and Hronek, but at least we got to consider. I know this isn't the one that Trevor's going to say, so I'll offer up Edler and Tanev. I will say that because they were part of some of our best years. And I know Tanev was just coming into the league when we did the 2011 Cup run. But yeah, I look at Edler and Tanev as, left shot, right shot. I guess they're kind of the polar opposites almost. Hughes and Hronek, they're the stay-at-home guys, especially Chris Tanev. But Tanev was the shot blocking machine. Tried to be durable. Edler tried to be durable, but Edler was a bit more offensive flair. Wasn't afraid to take the big shot. And I think together they're even better than they are individually. I'm not saying they're better than Hughes and Hronek, but I would offer up Edler and Tanev at least as a comparable. How about you, Trevor?
Yeah, for me, and I really wanted to go back in the time machine and pick someone from the 90s or early 2000s, but I kind of said off the top, I'm 30 years old, so I don't have the tough insight of the
Yeah.
1990s and from the early 2000s. I mean, the Canucks had good defensemen and Jovo and Olin, but it just seemed like
Yes.
there wasn't that one pairing that really stood out where you went, man, oh man, these guys are absolutely killing it. For me, it's Ham Hughes and Bieksa. I think the Canucks' number one pairing during the 2011 run, and
Yeah.
not only could they produce some offense. I mean, Bieksa, had some seasons of 10 goals or 40 points. Not a dynamo offensively, but solid. But those guys, it just did not get scored on a lot, and
Yeah.
they were so reliable, so dependable. They were tough. They were physical. to me, like they are probably the number one contender for best defensive pair in Canucks history. And
Yeah.
when I look at them compared to Hughes and Hronek, I don't even think it's much of a debate. Now Hughes and Hronek, of course, they got to go do it in the playoffs. This is an
Right.
early take, but I'm hopping on the bandwagon early. Hughes and Hronek, the
Yeah.
best defensive pairing in Canucks history.
I love it. We love the hot takes here. And yes, I'm thinking about the 94. So 94, if you're 30, what? Oh, you were basically born in 93, right?
Yeah, my parents said one of my first words was "bourré."
That that's awesome. So if we remember 94, I can't remember who played with who, but of course we had the Lumes and
Yeah.
the Babiches and way back then. And there were some good defensemen back then, but yeah, I'm recency bias for me as well. And yeah, I can't wait to see what Hughes and Hronek do. I'm just thinking now, before we get off this topic. So for the Canucks, if we agree that they're either there or on their way there, how about again? It's the rest of the league. Like who are the really top pairings across the league? Like I'd say Makar and Taves, but Taves hasn't had the best year. I'm trying to think of who else is out there right now. I'm thinking of the top teams. Like who does McAvoy play with in Boston?
Oh, McAvoy.
I don't know.
McAvoy did have a chunk with Lindholm last year, but
Okay.
for the most part, they'd split them on pairings. I think
Yeah.
McAvoy was with Grizzlick. I'm trying to see right now on
Yeah.
using good old Money Puck.
That's cool. While you do that, I'll read some from the chat. Yeah. So, interesting. So we got Fangirl, who's a big Hamuse fan, says it's Hamuse and Bieksa. And then Coach Rob says, what about the Jovanovski days? That's fair. Alex says Hamuse and Garrison. Yeah, I don't think Jason Garrison was that great here. Lefty all around says Edler and Tanev were better defensively. And then we have Bieksa and Edler. We have BX and Edler. Oh, and then someone says BX and Edler don't come close to Hughes and Hronek. Interesting. And Christian Ehrhoff, yeah, but he's only here for a cup of tea. So, yeah, some good ones there. Thank you, chat. Those are good. Those are good. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think Shea Theodore, Braden McNabb, and Vegas would be a pretty good one right now. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pairing that helped them win a cup.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Golden Knights have been really good this season as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can
something
you?
I wasn't seeing. Like, I think
Yeah.
I really like. I know Minnesota struggled this season. I really like Brock Faber's game in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I think that guy's going to be a hell of a player. And Jonas
Yeah.
Brodin and Brock Faber, their underlying numbers look fantastic right now.
Can you look up Rangers for me? Because Rangers are the number one team right now, and Adam Fox is out, so I don't even know who's doing what for them.
Yeah, I mean, recently, I'm not sure who would be playing them. I mean, I was Adam Fox and Ryan Lindgren for a long time. I think they
Okay.
would qualify.
Yeah.
I also think Makar and Taves would qualify as well. I
Yeah.
think they're probably the best pairing in the league.
And Truba's too busy
Miller and
slashing.
Trouba.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Truba's too busy slashing people in the head. You see that today?
Yeah.
That was so crazy.
Holy, I couldn't believe that when I saw that. But hey, how about Gustav Forsling and Oliver Ekman-Larsson for the league?
Yeah, two guys forever connected to the Vancouver. That was a good one, actually. That was very good.
Yeah.
So you guys, as we
also throw Dougie Hamilton and Yogi Siegenthaler
yeah.
in there. I think they've been really rock solid for that New Jersey Devils.
So viewers, as Trevor and I wax on about awesome deep pairings, start getting your questions in the chat. And you guys see me all the time, either on here or Canucks After Dark on my own show. So we're gonna direct these questions at Trevor for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So get your questions in, whether it's about tonight's game, whether it's the Canucks or his hot take on Hughes and Hronek, already 1/3 away, not even a third away into their first season, christening them as the best Canucks deep pairing in franchise history. Get your questions in to us right now. So the first one is from Fangirl. Yes, there we go. Trevor and Clay, who do you think goes to the All-Star game for the Canucks in Toronto? Is it just one player or more than one? And she says, Trevor, I'm a huge Ham Hughes fan because I live in northern BC. Yes, she's very loyal to Ham Hughes and loyal to us. So thank you, Fangirl. So we know that the All-Star, each division sends 11 players, 9 skaters and 2 goalies. And if you have a team of, a division of 8 teams, you only get 1, if at the most 2. Once in a while, if you're the home team, you get 3 like Tampa did. What do you think? There's definitely some candidates here to go to the All-Star game from Vancouver.
Yeah, I think they should just break the rules and send 6 Canucks for the Pacific Division. How about that?
Our whole PV1 and Demko.
Yeah, exactly. No, Miller, Pettersson, Besser, Hughes, Hronek, and Demko. And then they can pick another 5 guys from the other teams, McDavid maybe, Draisaitl maybe.
Yeah, those guys, overrated. No, truly, Hughes the lock. He's got to be. Hughes is the lock.
Yeah, I think it's I think because the NHL or the All-Star game, they do want to get the most the biggest names there.
Yep.
I think it's probably Hughes and Pettersson or Hughes and Miller,
Yeah.
or Hughes and Demko. I would agree with you, Clay. I think Hughes is a lock, and then it's
Yeah.
probably Miller or Pettersson or Demko as the
Yeah.
second.
And you look across, you're always going to be battling, even though it's the McDavid and Draisaitl, right? And there's a lot of good players in our division. But when I think about goaltending, I can't think of I guess you can look at the Vegas goalies, but I don't see two goalies better than Demko for sure in our division.
Well, I was crapping all over Cam Talbot at the beginning of the season. I was on the Locked On Kings podcast being like,
Oh,
you guys are
awesome.
really going to roll into the season with Cam Talbot and Phoenix Copley. And lo and behold, Cam Talbot has a better save percentage than Thatcher Demko right now.
I actually
So,
watched that one. I watched that one that you're on Locked on Kings. Yes. And you were, that's good. Hey man, stick to your guns, stick to your guns.
yeah. Cam Talbot's coming back down to earth. Mark my words.
There you go. Darth Nutella asks you, should Hoglander keep playing on the fourth line, or is it time that he gets a turn in the top six? So, and as a corollary to that, who do you bring out if you put Hoglander in the top six, Trevor?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's forcing his way up the lineup. And I did love the take from Sat Shaw,
Mm,
where he said he kind of likes Hoglander on the fourth line. It frees him up to drive his own line. That was different mentality, and I kind of appreciated that take. But at the end of
mm.
the day, I just think Hoglander's playing too good to be on the fourth line.
Yeah.
And if he's gonna play on the fourth line, you just got to find a way to get him more minutes. Like in that Seattle game, Hoglander had less than 10 minutes of even strength ice time. Every other Canuck had, sorry, I think this is overall ice time, but
Mm-hmm.
Hoglander played 9:54, and every other Canuck had more than 12 minutes. It's like he was arguably one of your best players out there, and you're still, having this guy basically ride the pine compared to the rest of the team. So yeah, I think he's got to play higher in the lineup. I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier in the show here, but with that top line right now, Pettersson with Mikheyev and Lafferty,
Yeah.
it's like, with all due respect to Lafferty, if Mikheyev was injured, I'd get it because to me, Lafferty and Mikheyev are similar players. They're
Yeah.
both speedster. They both play good 200-foot games. But you take Kuzmenko off that line, put a finisher like Hoglander on that line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Hoglander should go up the lineup. I mean, I'll say actually going into the season, when Kyle and I were talking on Locked On Canucks, what I wanted to see in the top six was I wanted to see Kuzmenko, Pettersson, and Besser. I thought that was probably the best way to get the most out of Besser, was put him
Mm,
on that top line. Now it's worked with Miller, which it didn't totally work last season.
yeah.
But I wanted to see that on the top one, and I want to see Hoglander and Miller on the second line together. So
Probably with McCabe.
that's
Yeah.
had me
Yeah.
interested in as well. But yeah, I think if Hoglander keeps playing like this, you got to put him up the lineup.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Kyan asked about Kuzmenko. Kyan, just rewind about 15 minutes. We actually spent about 5 minutes on Kuzmenko. If you could do that, that would be awesome. Chris Thorncroft says Jeff Brown and Jyrki Lume. Yeah, that was good because Lume was the skater and Jeff Brown had the bomb. So almost like Hughes and Hronek, a late combo. I like that one. David asks if Alvin doesn't make any big moves before the deadline. If he doesn't, which I think he will, if he thinks this is the best team shot he got. How far do you think this current iteration of the Canucks can go? I think they're destined to a second, third, whatever the order is, match up with the Kings. Although the Kings are playing well, but I still think Vegas will win the division. And anyways, how far do you think the Canucks go in the playoffs this year? And it's great that we're talking about the Canucks in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a dreamer, man. Why not go all the way? I honestly, I look at that Western Conference and Vegas is a great team, but I don't think they've played their best hockey, and maybe they're saving it. But I think if the Canucks can bolster their defense, like you look at Demko, and I think he'd be one of the best goalies in the league.
Mm-hmm.
They have some of the best star power in the league. I think they got 4 forward lines that can roll right now. I think it kind of comes down to health and what they can do to improve the blue line.
Yeah.
But if they can improve the blue line, and if the team stays relatively healthy, I honestly kind of think the sky's the limit for this team. I think they could surprise a lot of teams come playoff time.
I do. And honestly, Trevor, when we come in this season, I was like, oh, I hope Rutherford and Alvin don't get too reckless at the trade deadline. But if they're way ahead of where they think they are, and if they're fighting for first in the division or even a second place spot, why not go for it? Like this might be the best chance you have in the next 3 or 4 years. Truly.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's a secret anymore.
Yeah.
We talk about, the Canucks need like two more years to like have their cup window open. Their cup window is open right now.
Yeah.
Now is the time for this team to go all in. Probably, well, they do need to add another piece on the blue line in some way, shape, or form. But I have the confidence in this team to make a run this season. Obviously, they could flame out in round one, but I also think they could make a run to surprise some people as well.
And let's end with this one. A great question. What might a new Hughes-Hronek contract look like? Now, just so everyone knows, he's on the last year of a $4.4 million deal. He is an RFA, so it's not like he can ask for the moon yet. He's an RFA at the end of this. And we do have money like Tyler Myers, Anthony Beauvillier, Teddy Bluger, Sam Lafferty, Dakota Joshua. I said Tyler Myers, but I say it again because he's worth so much. Ian Cole, and wow, there's still Mark Friedman, Casey DeSmith, all coming off the books. And then what's Ekman Larsson's penalty next year? Okay, next year it's still okay. It's not bad. It's $2.4 million. It's after that it goes up to $4 million. So, given all that, knowing that PD has a new contract, what makes sense for her? I think we'd agree that we want him back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, what might a new contract look like, Trevor, for Philip Hronek?
I think it's 7 million plus.
Yeah.
Hughes is at 7.8. I don't know if it gets above that, but I think it gets pretty close.
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends how the rest of the season goes.
Yep.
But based on the way he's playing right now, I'm actually scared to look at the Athletics player card model when it comes out, because Hronek last year was valued as an $8.1 million player according to the model.
Are you serious?
Yeah, based on his play last year, an $8.1 million play. Now that's one model. Okay, like let's not get too carried away, but to me, he's not even a number 2 defenseman. He's playing like a number 1 defenseman right now.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say that Hughes is propping him up, but like I just watch the way he plays and his poise with the puck, his smarts in his own end, the way he can wheel and open up space in the offensive zone. Like he is the real deal. And again, I kind of said at the top of the show, like honest person here. I was kind of skeptical of what he was going to be coming into the season, but he's blown away my expectations. But I see him as and he's a right shot defenseman. It's the most valuable commodity in the league. So
yeah.
I think if they can get him under 7.8, which is what Hughes is making right now, it's probably a win.
Yeah. Well, so yes, we're all fixated on the Elias Pettersson new contract, but just as important to this team, I'm not going to say more, but just as important or close to be just as important will be this Philip Hronek extension as well. Going to be something exciting to keep an eye on. Well, Trevor, we got to do this again. I think it was worth the wait, but it means I want more. So we will get you on at least 1 or 2 more times this season. Once again, thanks for your time. Tell everyone where they can find all of your good work.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, Trev Beggs, Beggs. You can find my work on Daily Hive Offside, and you can follow Locked On Canucks on YouTube, just like at the same spot, that same great website where you can find Clay's great work as well.
Awesome. Well, Trev, hang on tight. I'll connect with you right as soon as I press end stream. So for everyone else, thank you. I hope you enjoyed the show. On your way out, give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to SDPN so you get all of these Game Over shows for all 7 Canadian markets. But for us, the next game is Vancouver, Anaheim on Tuesday night. Sam, returning from overseas, will make her just like this was a much anticipated collab. She will be making her much anticipated return to Game Over Vancouver as she she hosts the Game Over show after the Canucks host the Ducks, and hopefully they get back on the winning track against a Pacific Division opponent. So thanks again to Trevor. Thanks again to all of you for being here tonight. I hope you enjoy the rest of your night, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. As always, take care of yourself and go Canucks go.